Hello, welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm Mackelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 264 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we'll be discussing chapter 38 of A Feast for Crows. That's Jaime 6.
And as always, we're going to chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, unless, of course, you have a Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tier that includes spoilers. Then we will spoil things for you. Regardless, we'll hopefully provide you some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what happened, discuss our thoughts on it, provide some useful background, compare it to the television show, indulge in a little pedantry, and cover some relevant news and listener correspondence. Be sure to check out the show notes. They'll provide some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you, Mackelly?
I'm doing fine. I'm looking at witty banter here, and you have a laundry list of items. I don't know if these are all new or they're pre-existing.
Let me tell you the Game of Thrones related one first. So I was watching soccer at the weekend, and there's a new team in the Premier League called Ipswich Town, and they're not very big, and they're having a rough old time of it because it's hard to get into the Premier League.
Sure.
And then what you find when you get there is that there are very good teams waiting to smash you around, and that's what's been happening to them.
Okay.
But they were playing away at Tottenham Hotspur, one of the big teams, and so you'd expect them to lose.
Yeah.
And they won. They won 2-1, and it was very exciting for them. It was their first win. We're in late November. The season's been going since August, and they haven't managed to win, but they got a win on the road. Yeah, it was very exciting. Ed Sheeran, who the connection to Game of Thrones is that he was in an episode of Game of Thrones.
All right. Yes, I remember. Yeah.
He was there. Now, I want to back off this story. I don't want to do this story because I read more about it and I felt terrible for sort of snickering. But
but you're gonna
I put it in the notes.
Go forward
so
anyway.
Now I'm gonna say it. Yeah. So when they scored their second goal, the camera cut to him in the crowd, and honestly, were it not for Game of Thrones, I wouldn't have known who the man was. But
me either.
Because of Game of Thrones, I was like, that's Ed Sheeran.
Uh-huh.
And he was sitting next to a lady, and the lady then talked to the person next to her on the other side in sign language.
Okay. Neat. Yeah.
And mean-spirited Simon said, well, that makes a lot of sense that Ed Sheeran's friends would be deaf. Being mean about his singing voice, which is not fair because he's got a very nice singing voice. But there you are. That was the mean thought I had. But then you know what? So here's why I'm such a horrible person. I looked it up. He has a lot of deaf fans, and he caters to them. He does a lot of work for his deaf fans.
Oh wow!
And he's made music videos specifically for his deaf fans, and so
wow.
Yeah. So I'm
neat.
Horrible,
yeah.
and Ed Sheeran is nice, and there you go.
Well, if you asked me to name one Ed Sheeran song, I don't think I could.
I mean,
I don't think I could hum a tune of a single Ed Sheeran song.
Neither could I. I mean, absolutely not. I mean, to be fair to Ed Sheeran, his oeuvre is of the 21st century, and therefore I haven't listened to anything about anyone in that century.
Yeah, me too.
So
it's the same issue.
He did sing a song on Game of Thrones. Probably I could sing that one, but I don't think it was the Rains of Castermere, so I can't even sing that one.
Or The Bear and the Maiden Fair. I don't think it was that one either.
Yes.
Well, that's really neat. That's good on him. Yeah.
I know. Really. Yeah. Horrible Simon. Very nice Ed Sheeran. Well done.
Right. Well summed up.
Yes. So last week, Carson has been going to a yoga class, and she asked me to go with her. And I was reluctant. Not because I don't want to go to yoga class. It's just I don't want to go to any class. There's just no class that I want to go to.
Right.
Particularly exercise classes of any sort. I just don't like the idea of them.
Sure,
but I have done yoga before, and I have felt physical benefits from doing yoga. So eventually I succumbed and I agreed to go. But she also convinced our friends Tim and Ali to go. And I was like, oh, well, that makes it a little bit more fun. 4 of us going. So there were only 5 people in the class. So 4 of us were us. And
so if none of you had gone, it would have just been Carson and this other person.
Well, Carson was saying that actually was quite a big crowd because she's been there. She's been the only person. She's chosen the music before. So.
It's like a private class. How nice.
Pretty much.
I'm surprised she wanted to share it.
And it's through Parks and Rec, so it's actually a bargain as well. It actually works out at $3 for an hour.
Wow. That is quite the bargain. Yeah.
I know. So anyway, it was just before the class, we had a group text, and just before the class, Alison on the group text said, "Hey, do you all like this restaurant that's just down the road from where the class was?" And we didn't even respond. I mean, I think I was kind of, that's not a surprise to you, right?
That's the least surprising thing so far. That's less surprising than the $3 class, that's for sure.
So we did the class, and it was good. And I've had some physical issues, and I've benefited from the class. So, great. But when the class was over, Alison said, "Oh, we've got reservations at 7:15. And we're like, "Oh, okay, let's go to dinner then. That'll be fun." And Ali jumped into the bathroom and came out, her hair blown dry, a complete change of clothes.
Yeah, I was just thinking, wait a second, it's a reservation type restaurant and you're coming from an exercise class?
Yeah. And so we were all like, come on! You could have, we could have all brought a change of clothes. But so we were all in like sweat. Well, not sweat. I mean, it's yoga. We're not like dripping with sweat, but we're in workout clothes.
Sure, right.
So I was like, oh, okay. So we went to the restaurant, and worst of all, we got there and the table wasn't ready for us, so we had to stand in the restaurant with the whole restaurant seeing this group of
and it's
hooligans.
a very tight. It's a very tight place.
Tight space, exactly. So everyone, we're within 2 feet of many people, and we're like, not dressed well. So anyway, they seat us, and we had a nice time, and they were accommodating to the fact that we weren't quite dressed properly, but minus
Ali.
Minus Ali, who
dressed
looked
to the nines.
She was fine. She looked great. So I don't know if you know this, Mackelly, but I surround myself with people who laugh at my jokes. That's why I have so few friends.
That's why you've kept me around for 20 years.
Exactly. And Tim is very much in the same category. Tim will laugh at my jokes, and so Tim and I are good friends as a result.
Right.
And so Tim's not much of a reader either. But every year we go on vacation with him, and every year I take him a book to read, and he reads that book, the one I bring him. He read The Martian. He read Hail Mary by Andy Weir as well. Right. And he loved those books. He absolutely loved those books. But sometimes he doesn't finish the book the week we're on vacation in the mountains. And if he doesn't finish the book in that week, he doesn't finish the book. There's very little chance of this thing getting finished. Yeah.
Right.
So if the book doesn't grip him, typically he doesn't actually finish the book.
So you have to bring him shorter books.
I cater to my audience. I recognize what he is, but so I was asking him. I'd forgotten what book I gave him this summer. I was like, oh, what book was it that I gave you this summer? And he said, oh, it's the one with the guy.
It does the thing.
I said, you haven't even cracked the cover of that thing, have you? Just as I said that, he was taking a swig of red wine.
Oh,
and
no.
It caught him, and he sprayed red wine.
Oh, spit take with red wine. Could it be worse? I don't know.
To try and stop it, he put his fingers in front of his mouth, and that just made it go sideways. So red wine sprayed onto the wall of the restaurant.
Oh, no.
And onto Ali's white shirt that she got changed.
The only one who's dressed nice.
We laughed. It felt like Karma had just been like, well, there you go. You shouldn't have done it.
If you had been in your workout clothes, you'd be less angry than you are right now.
Oh, she was angry. Oh,
I bet. Well, that's a good story. That sounds like a fun time.
Yeah.
Minus Ali there.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Your stories always are more enjoyable than mine. Mine are usually boring. So I'm glad that you had a good one.
Yeah. The second class is tomorrow, so we'll see if we get any more.
All right.
We signed up for the month, you see, so I've got to do 3 classes.
Yeah. All right, $12.
Well, because of Thanksgiving, it's a 3-week month, so it only costs me
$9.
So,
right,
yeah.
Yes, okay, I got you.
Dodge that bullet. Anyway, let's get down to business. How do we leave Jaime Lannister? Last we saw of Jaime, he'd arrived at Riverrun to find the siege going badly. I mean, not like losing, but not being organised very well.
Yeah.
The Blackfish, Brynden Tully, was very much entrenched within, and the antics of the Lannisters' supposed allies were idiotic and dispiriting. He did get to catch up with his aunt Gemma, who's a pistol, and she feeds him a home truth that Jaime and Cersei may think they're Tywin reborn, but Tyrion is the one who came closest. Mackelly, why don't we give the summary of this one?
All right. Well, Jaime meets with Brynden Blackfish Tully. The latter is clad in black, as befits the Blackfish sobriquet. You know, I had to look up how to pronounce that word. I had to Google, how do you pronounce sobriquet? He's older. I feel like you threw that in there just to see how I'd handle the word.
There's a bit of that going on.
He's older and grizzled, but Jaime can still see the great knight who enthralled him as a young squire with tales of battle. Jaime wears no armor, trusting the Tully honor.
Kingslayer.
Blackfish.
Brynden assumes Jaime has come to fulfill his oaths, but he sees no girls. Since Jaime doesn't have them, does he come to resume his captivity? Jaime demurs. The Blackfish complains about Catelyn's death. Jaime wants to say that he had no hand in that the girls were gone before he reached King's Landing. But Brynden Tully has that same look that Ned Stark had when he found Jaime on the throne with Aerys' blood dripping from his sword. So he saves his breath. He's here to save lives.
If he's come to threaten to hang Edmure, he might as well go ahead and do it. That makes Jaime furious at Ryman Frey again. Jaime offers a trade of prisoners. Edmure for the Westerlings, but the Blackfish won't bargain with an oathbreaker. And he won't part with his queen, Jane Westerling Stark, to be hanged by the Freys. Jaime says she's pardoned and won't be hurt, but Brynden Tully can't trust Jaime's word. Open the gates and nobody dies. Those who'll serve their new Lord Ryman Frey can stay. The rest are free to go. Brynden Tully himself can take the black. His stepnephew is Lord Commander. The Blackfish thinks that is also Tywin's work, as Cat never trusted the boy, no more than she trusted Theon. She seems to be right about both.
If you won't yield, hundreds will die, but thousands of yours, counters Blackfish. Jaime asks what he's fighting for. The war is over. Robb is dead. The direwolf flies over Riverrun, but on no other castle south of the Neck. Jaime's prepared to starve them out. Tully thinks they have more food than the besiegers. Jaime offers single combat. Tully wonders if Jaime will fight. Cat's oath prevents him. Brynden thinks this is very convenient. Finally, Jaime angers at the accusation of cowardice. If Tully will free him from his oath, he'll do it. But the Blackfish won't. Jaime's word is worthless. He'd only gain the pleasure of killing Jaime.
Would any terms be acceptable?
Not from you.
Then why treat?
A siege is deadly dull.
And scene.
I like these. I like these.
I know.
Being the roles. Yeah.
2 weeks in a row. I like it.
Yeah. We're like a radio play.
That's right. The Blackfish expresses his disappointment in Jaime and heads inside. Jaime rides back. He'd achieved no more than Ryman. He calls for a war council. Ryman's son Edwyn represents the Freys, as his father is hungover. There is much bickering, but most agree they must attack, except for Lord Emmon, of course. Adam Marbrand suggests a moonless night infiltration, but others fear that the Blackfish is too canny to be caught that way. But he could be lured to the battlements. Archers with poisoned arrows could target him, and when I say poisoned arrows, I mean with, poo. Yes, exactly. Throughout it all, Lord Emmon keeps reminding people not to damage his castle.
Lord Piper says that Brynden won't yield to such as these, indicating the phrase. More bickering ensues. The Freys accuse all the rest of treachery, but Jaime points out that they sided with the Starks too, and then betrayed them. Jaime gives up on the council and announces an attack at first light. As Jenna leaves, she points out that Edmure still stands between her and her husband Emmon and the seat of Riverrun. Jaime promises to deal with it.
Jaime crosses the Tumblestone with Sir Ilyn and Sir Lyle Crakehall. A camp follower shies away from Ilyn's eyes, and Jaime is recognized as he makes his way through the Frey camp. Ryman is being entertained in his large tent. Meanwhile, the bastard Walder Rivers eyes Jaime suspiciously. Jaime climbs the gallows to Edmure. When Edmure sees Ilyn, he says a sword is better than a noose. However, Ilyn's sword slices through rope, not Edmure's neck. Ryman arrives with a lady who he's crowned the Queen of Whores. Jaime hits him with the golden hand for making threats he couldn't fulfill. Jaime talks to Ilyn about beheading Ryman, who becomes quite scared. And then Jaime dismisses him entirely.
Jaime appoints Ryman's son Edwyn to lead the Freys and to send word to the twins that all prisoners are to be sent here. So Lyle helps Edmure to his feet and Jaime requisitions Ryman's singer, and the group leave the Frey camp. Back in his own tent, Jaime talks to Edmure, who maintains that his wife was not part of the Red Wedding plan, and now she is with child. Jaime thinks that it is Edmure's own death that grows within Roslin.
Jaime arranges for a bath and food for Edmure. Once he's fed, he'll be sent to Riverrun. Edmure is confused, and I can understand why. Jaime makes the same offer he made to the Blackfish. Yield Riverrun, and nobody dies. The willing can stay, the unwilling can leave, and the Blackfish can go to the Wall. Edmure can choose between going to the Wall himself or going to Casterly Rock as a captive with Roslin and their baby. Edmure wants to know what's on the other side of the coin.
Jaime will send the former Tully banner men first, so the besieged will have to kill the fathers and brothers of men who died at the Twins. The second wave will be Freys. The final wave will be Westermen when there are no arrows left and no arms strong enough to fire them. Everyone will be put to the sword. Riverrun will be destroyed. Roslin's child will be sent to him via trebuchet. Jaime wonders if Jenna would still think he wasn't Tywin's son. Jaime leaves Edmure with the singer singing the Rains of Castermere.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes. As befitting, that's what they do. The Lannisters,
yes.
They really like to remind people of the Rains of Castermere.
Yes. And it's funny, actually, we've got so used to sort of nice Jaime, you do forget sometimes that he is who he is.
Yes.
Although, you know what, I will say that within the context of this war, what he just did is exactly the threat that almost anyone would have put against any of their enemies. Robb Stark would have said the same thing.
Yeah, what choice does he have? Say, you can get, you can free everyone and go to Casterly Rock, or we'll sit outside and you sit inside and we'll just keep waiting each other out.
One more mouth to feed in there.
That might be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
Exactly. I'm bringing all those prisoners down from the Twins because I'm going to give them back to you, and they're going to eat you out of house and home as well.
Oh, we're just going to keep stocking it full of allies.
So I love Brynden Tully. I think he's just a great character. Yeah, just cool, cynical, utterly disparaging of Jaime. I will say though, once again, Jaime's Ned Stark-like stubbornness, if I can, refuses to let him make his case. I am 99% sure that the Blackfish wouldn't have believed or cared if Jaime had made the honest appraisal of where he stood with respect to his vows. But that discussion was always going to be pointless if you're not even going to try and make your case. If you just come along and say, hey, you know me, big oathbreaker, I promise I'll let you go.
This time, I'm going to keep my word. Yeah, right.
So if he has to lose some face in the process, he's got to live with that. He's got to stop being so proud of this reputation, which is untrue and unfair against him. But he keeps on clinging on to it.
Yeah. He compares this instance to, like you said, the way that Ned looked at Jaime when he found Jaime on the Iron Throne after killing Aerys. And again, then, as now, he gives no explanation as to why he's in the situation that he's in. It's almost like he's indignant about their initial judgment and so refuses to explain himself And the effect is that others make judgment without the full details.
Right, exactly. So I, as you can see in the notes, I've actually scripted what he could have said to Brynden Tully. So here you go.
Yeah, here it goes.
I got to King's Landing, but the girls were gone. I armed Brienne of Tarth with the Valyrian steel sword, which is the pride of our house, and sent the most loyal and stubborn knight I've ever met, Brienne of Tarth, to find them and bring them back to the north, not to King's Landing. Will she succeed? Probably not. The girls are likely dead or lost forever, but Brienne has a better chance of finding them than I ever did. And I also had my Lord Commander of the Kingsguard duties to attend to. I'm trying to keep that oath, and I'm trying to keep the oath of not fighting the Tullys at the same time. So do me a solid here and give up the castle.
Right. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Would the Blackfish probably go for this? Not likely. But at least he would know that Jaime is trying to do something that he agreed to do.
What's the harm? What is the harm?
Yeah.
It's that whole there's a thread running through Jaime, which is lions don't explain themselves to sheep or fish.
Or fish, right. I think it's not helped by the first word out of Brendan's mouth being Kingslayer. Yeah. Jaime told Brienne that his honor, his honor would be smeared on the arrows that Edwyn Frey wants to fire into the castle here. Mm-hmm. Ever since killing Aerys, and it's not a good look. He failed on the promise of returning the girls. Now Catelyn Stark is dead and Jaime is free. Without context behind it, to the Blackfish, it's a really bad look.
Exactly, it's a terrible look, and it isn't. It's not a great look. You saw my impassioned speech. Yeah, I still chose against what I promised Catelyn, right. But I'm trying to keep some of it the best I can.
Yeah.
But you're absolutely right. Without that context, this is the man who broke his oath and killed Aerys, breaking all of his oaths to Catelyn.
Yeah. Which makes me wonder if possibly it was a mistake to send Jaime as the emissary for Tommen in this situation. Now, as I say that, Cersei didn't care about who was the best, most honorable fit that would carry the most weight. She just didn't like Jaime being in the Red Keep and challenging her on everything.
Yeah.
But did she have a resource, someone that could have been taken more seriously?
Well, the flip side of that is he actually has come up with a plan to win Riverrun back. Nobody else seems to have done that yet.
Yeah, right. No, you're right. Yeah. As far as just during the parlay, though, he was not the person.
He could have sent Aunt Jenna. That would have been better, probably.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. Did I see the Kingslayer over there? Yeah, you did. He's really sorry.
Right. He's really trying. Let me tell you what he's been up to, since he won't.
But he won't tell Jenna either. Nobody knows.
Yeah, that's true.
So Ryman Frey's plan was idiotic to keep threatening to kill Edmure. Tully says it here himself. He's like, he's marked for death. Go ahead and hang him. We're not going to respond to that threat. And now that threat is completely empty and meaningless to the besieged. And so right. I think Jaime's blood boils a little bit at that.
Yeah, now it's at the point where the Blackfish is just weary of waiting for the inevitable, which is Edmure to be hung or hanged. Sorry, he's not a picture for Edmure to be hanged.
I think it's I don't mean to disparage you, Mackelly, but let me go ahead. It's strange that you know that rule, because I interchange hanged and hung all the time. Well,
there's two reasons. One, I was an editor for many a year, so I did have to know such rules. And two, Amari Frey's mother called her out on the same thing when she said, I'm drawing a blank on her name. She's a dairy. I can't think of which dairy she is off the top of my head. But she called Amy out on the same thing when she said, hung, and she said, "It's hanged, dear. Your father was not a painting."
Very nice. Well done.
But Jaime makes a very reasonable proposal here in this parlay.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All men that are currently in Riverrun will go free. Edmure will be spared the death that the Blackfish has figured is inevitable since he sees him out there in the gallows every day. Riverrun, the castle itself, will be spared, and the Blackfish can go to the wall where he can live out his days. And prior to making this full offer, he made a separate offer, which was, we'll give you Edmure Tully, the Lord of Riverrun, your liege lord, for the Westerlings, which seems like a sweet deal, but kind of feels like there must be a trap here or something, because, that's a really sweet deal.
Yeah, both sides of that are actually a trap, I think, because on the one hand, Tully refuses that because he's like, no, I'm not going to hand my queen over to death, right. Not realizing that the pardon to the Westerlings is actually is more than just a pardon. I think it's a thank you.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes. Yeah, well, yeah, it certainly could possibly be, because they're the ones that basically ended Rob's kingdom,
right? And the other side of the equation is the delivery of Edmure. Well, now we know what Edmure was going to have in his ear before arriving in Riverrun, which is,
oh yes,
you hand
right.
over the castle. So if Edmure goes in and opens the doors, then if the Tullys were aware of the perhaps guilt of the Westerlings, they might kill the Westerlings before Edmure can open the gates.
Yeah,
so this would be ideal for Jaime if he could get this to happen.
Yeah. Edmure, as you lay it out here, Edmure would have kind of been like a Trojan horse for this plan. Like, send the plan in with Edmure, with it planted in his head, and then let him spring it once he's in there.
Exactly. Yeah,
you're right. Yeah. But also, without the Westerling captives in Riverrun, then they can storm the castle without fear of those inside the castle retaliating by killing their hostages, which are the Westerlings.
Right. But actually, Jaime finds out from this conversation that Brynden doesn't perceive them as hostages. He perceives them as his queen and his queen's family.
Right. Yes.
So that's useful intel for Jaime, And actually, if I was Brynden Tully, I'd be like, huh.
Yeah.
Why?
Why the
Westerlings? If it
Westerlings?
Wasn't to execute them for their treason, why does he want them?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I like that thought. Yeah. Do you think that the Blackfish was wrong for rejecting the offer that Jaime proposes?
Yes, ultimately. I mean, I'm a man
of
peace, as you know.
Right, yeah.
I mean, they're going to lose this. They're going to lose Riverrun. They might as well give it up without bloodshed. But
yeah, you're right. Yeah, and what's the point of holding it? Because Robb is dead, as Jaime points out. All of their Tully bannermen have bent the knee, and so who are they fighting for?
Yeah, I will say.
Well, sorry, the Blackwoods. The Blackwoods are the only other river lords holding out. Yeah,
I knew at least one of those two would be on the other side.
Right.
I will say, if Brynden Tully was a fly on the wall at the war council that follows his discussion with Jaime, he would actually regird his loins and want to keep besieging, because he might perceive that 2 years out in that field, they might kill each other, and the Tully loyalists might kill all the Freys, and the gates could be open to celebrating of victory.
That's true. Too bad Edmure doesn't know any of this either.
Nah, that would have been interesting if the sequence of events was discussion with Brynden, rescuing Edmure, war council that Edmure hears. It'd be like,
Right.
dude,
I'm just going to sit tight. This is a powder keg.
Yeah. So Brynden wonders an interesting thing that he wonders if Tywin had Jon Snow appointed Lord Commander of the Night's Watch, and we know, of course, that that's not true in the slightest.
No.
But you can see from Brynden's perspective, who knew Jon through Cat, he probably thinks he probably puts him in the same category as Theon Greyjoy.
Yeah, there's Cat disparaging Jon's good name. Probably writing letters about how much she dislikes him. But it's quite the opposite, actually. It was Tywin that sent the letter to the Wall recommending Jaina Slynt to replace Mormont as Lord Commander. And Cersei had this plan to kill Jon because Jon had sided with Stannis. So very much not the case that the Lannisters had implanted him there.
Yeah, as we said, I mean, pretty much the worst war council ever. At one point, Jaime actually thinks this is a war council, not a war.
Right.
So that's not a good sign. The Riverlords loathe the Freys and will never forgive them, and that enmity will never end. And that's why absolutely there's one reason to keep this siege going, which is that the coalition of the unwilling outside the walls could collapse in a way that would hurt the Freys pretty badly.
You're absolutely right. Yeah, this council gives Cersei's smallest council a run for its money, and as far as ineffectiveness goes, difference is Jaime didn't handpick this crew. He's got what he's stuck with.
That's true.
Yeah, Ryman Frey, heir to the twins, can't even bother to show up. He sends his son Edwyn, as well as bastard Walder Rivers. Jaime has a thought, later when they're with Edmure, that this guy Ryman is going to run House Frey into the ground if Lord Walder doesn't outlive him, and it's almost karma because Walder has limitless options for heir and has he's lived such a long life, and right as he is reaching his he's an elderly man. He could go at any time.
It's the dark end of Twilight, yes.
Yes. He's got this horrible heir that's just going to be the worst lord. So, maybe his relatives will end up killing him because they'll realize how bad of an heir he's going to be.
I wonder if Jaime's decision to supplant Ryman with his own son, Edwyn, might actually be the first domino to fall in that plan to get rid of Ryman as the heir, because all of the Freys there just witnessed him getting supplanted by his own son. It would plant a seed, if nothing else.
And that there's no way word's not getting back to Lord Walder that Ryman has been fired from his job.
Yeah.
So, but basically during the council, everyone sticks to their agenda. Emmon wants Edmure dead and the castle spared. Strongbor wants glory. He wants to offer single combat, which we know that won't work. Davin wants a siege, and Adam Marbrand suggests operatives on a secret mission led by him. So, the question is, what's the most effective of everyone's own agenda, I guess?
Yeah. I think Jaime came up with the one way to do it, which is to get Edmure to go be the Trojan horse.
Yeah, right. I mean, killing Edmure, we know, is not going to do it.
Yeah, so it'll change anything inside there.
The Blackfish has already rejected single combat, so that's not going to work either.
Yeah. So, in terms of dealing with medieval infections, which do you think is worse, a poop arrow or biter's teeth?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a hard one to answer.
They're both pretty nasty, I would think. That's a lot of bacteria.
Yes, exactly. As I was going to say, they're both littered with bacteria.
Oh, yeah. Nasty.
Yeah.
So, You said that Lord Clement Piper is very understandably upset with the phrase. Why particularly Clement Piper?
Well, because his son Mark was taken captive during the Red Wedding, and it's his son and heir. So,
right, yeah.
And not just his son and heir, but as Carl or Carol Vance, it's still debatable which how that name is pronounced, points out to us, there were knights and men-at-arms that were sent with Mark that were all family, cousins and nephews and such, and none of them have returned. So you could certainly understand why Jaime is dubious about the Riverlord's loyalty when he can see firsthand the bitterness over the Red Wedding.
Yeah. I mean, I will say, I feel rash now saying that this can only end one way. I actually think that the Tullys could win this.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It would certainly be hard for the Riverlords to sit in this situation with the Freys for, any length of time when you really think about it. Yeah.
But the one thing the thing is that enmity is never going to go away, but Riverrun still being Tully is critical. It's a critical beacon for those rebels against the Freys. And that's why Brynden Tully has to not give up. He has to keep fighting this fight. Because while that stands, that's always going to, be a rallying point for everybody who hates the Freys, which is everybody.
Yeah, and what's the Lannisters' plan? But to remove the Tullys and put a Frey in Riverrun.
Right. And then once that happens, then where's your focal point? Where's your gathering point for the people who want to get rid of the Freys? The Freys now litter the Riverlands. Everywhere you turn, there's Freys. How do you bring them down? It becomes impossible.
Yeah, especially a house that had disgraced themselves so thoroughly and affected so many other houses with their betrayal. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I love that Jaime put Edwyn and Walter in their place when they were talking about how the Pipers were traitors. Jaime said, "You took up the Stark cause and then betrayed him, so you're twice as treacherous as the Pipers." So,
yes, they didn't like that either. They didn't laugh it off. They were upset by that.
And it's a reputation they better get used to, because it's the pervasive feeling throughout the realm, and possibly a generation or more will be needed for them to outlive the shame and this reputation.
Jaime can tell them what it's like to be saddled with something you did.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. But you're absolutely right. That will die with Jaime. This won't die with Walder Frey. This is the Freys attainted forever by this.
Yeah.
So when Jaime goes to rescue Edmure, he meets Ryman, who shows up with a half-naked woman. He's been carousing and partying, and he didn't show up for the War Council. It's a pretty bad look, and I think he should have thought it through. And especially when he crowned her the Queen of Whores, that's a particularly bad look, I feel, when, you're talking to the brother of the Queen.
The actual Queen, who Jaime thinks, no, my sister has that title.
Oh, yes.
Yes. There's definitely some issues between the two of them still going on here. But we talked in spoilers last Jaime chapter about where Ryman got this idea of trotting Edmure out there and threatening to hang him. And Ryman tells us in this chapter that he got the idea from his middle son Walter, who did the same thing and threatened to kill Patrick Mallister, and Jason Mallister yielded the castle. So Ryman thought, oh, well, there's the key to success right there. Although it's, you actually have to believe the threat is real. There's a couple possible reasons there. The Blackfish could be more callous and shrewd than Jason Mallister, or possibly a nephew isn't a son. Maybe he doesn't have the same level of, attachment there.
Yeah. So Jaime demands that the prisoners be sent from the twins, the prisoners, that is, from the Red Wedding. Why do we think he's doing that? I mean, one thought that occurred to me was that once you put the baby in the trebuchet and fired that over the walls, what else have you got to fire? Remember, Emmon doesn't want to fire anything else over the walls, so maybe one by one the prisoners get in the trebuchet and get fired over the walls.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I hadn't thought that darkly. That's a possibility, certainly. I was thinking more like he doesn't trust the Freys to keep the prisoners safe and alive for negotiation purposes.
Right. Well, the trebuchet was the negotiation, but yes, I take your point.
Right, the negotiation. Yeah, yeah. Maybe he trusts himself to manage their captivity and then their ransom better than he does Walder Frey.
Yeah,
He'd rather cut out the middleman.
And the other thing is, and maybe the Freys don't realize this, the Freys can't keep the other River Lords in line forever by holding their families hostage. At some point, you've got to say, look, we're in charge. We're going to let your prisoners go. Maybe ask for a young child to come and be a
ward or something.
A ward.
Yeah.
But you can't keep them prisoner for this long and expect compliance. That's going to have the opposite effect. It's going to maintain and keep fresh the wounds between them.
Yeah. Here's the known captives. We only know of 4 named captives. The Great John Umber, Patrick Mallister, who was used to secure Seaguard, Edmure, who is here, and Mark Piper, who is still clearly a captive because his father is so upset about him being captive.
We had wondered earlier if Edmure was aware of what was happening at the Red Wedding, and now we know. At least it says in the notes now we know, but you're going to have to remind me what he does and doesn't know. He was off with Roslyn, and he did not know that it was going on.
That's right. Yeah. Jaime mentions that he must have really been into Roslyn to continue on with the bedding ceremony while the Red Wedding is going on outside, and he said, I didn't know there were fiddlers outside the door. And, we can all assume that the activities inside the bedchamber were also
making some noise as well. Yes, thank you, thank you. I am English, let's move on.
Everyone thinks that if this child that Roslyn is carrying is a son, it spells doom for Edmure. But as we've discussed, Jaime gives the opportunity for that not to be the case. If Edmure is going to be released into the castle, and he'll have 2 options. Concede the castle as Lord of Riverrun, and he can become a pampered captive at Casterly Rock, and his wife and child can come and live there with him. Or the alternative is hold out, and everybody will be killed. The men in the castle will be killed. The castle itself will be destroyed, and his baby will be killed. And, when he describes this plan, it's basically laid out the same way as how his father Tywin destroyed Castermere. Divert a stream with Castermere. They diverted a stream to drown those hiding in the mines under the castle, and then they burned and destroyed the castle above ground. And of course, as usual, he uses the Rains of Castermere song to drive the point home that the Lannisters don't mess around.
I think Edmure does have one option, which is to go into the castle and then say, all right, what we're going to do, we've got like 4 months. We are going to practice catching babies.
We won't know when it's going to happen or
exactly.
when it's going to happen.
I want you to track the arc of the trajectory of these trebuchets very carefully, okay? And then like a bunch of firefighters with a catching net,
Yeah, they have watermelons to practice throwing off the walls down into the yard. See if they can keep one from smushing. Oh gosh. We're terrible.
We are. I will say it's easy to have some sympathy here for Jaime. He is between a rock and a hard place. He really doesn't want to break his vow to Cat. He's earnest about that, obviously. But his track record means that nobody believes him. I will say, though, his diamond hard edge comes out in this chapter. His threat to Edmure is so much more callous and vicious than what the Freys were being. And so much more effective for it,
Right.
Here's a threat which I'm going to spell out to you, and I will follow through on it. I'm not going to put a noose around your neck every morning and then bring you down every night. This is what's going to happen, and you're going to be very sorry. And, you know.
Yeah. And Edmure is probably taken by the way this is delivered, but he's not the only one. The squires in Pia were also stunned to silence after Jaime tells...
He's been nice Jaime for so long.
Yeah. Exactly. They're used to seeing him as friendly, level-headed, just treating them with respect. But here they're getting a glimpse of the dangerous two-handed Jaime. That
Right. So to Edmure, I mean, he's long been a punchbag both for George Martin and the readers and every other character in the book.
Yeah.
But he does have a chance at nobility here. He joins the siege and takes those consequences. Or, as I think I would be, he's a completely broken man already. And he'll do exactly what he's told to do. And I was thinking about this. Which will he do? And I think a lot of it depends on timeline. If he goes inside Riverrun and spends some time in council with Brynden Tully, he'll regrow a spine. But if he goes in and immediately opens the doors, then what can anyone do? He's the Lord of Riverrun, you know. They're going to follow his commands, I think.
Yeah, no, you're right.
Here I was going to talk about the overarching futility of maintaining the siege, but as we've talked, I've changed my mind about that. I think there's a point, and so they should keep doing it while I sit at home eating and going wherever I want.
Right. The freedom to eat what you want to go where you want. And let's think about it for a second. This baby that Rosalind Frey Tully is carrying inside of her is a Frey. Are they going to give up the child to Jaime to be murdered?
Interesting thought. That, you see, maybe that's the kind of thing Brynden Tully might say to him.
Right. Yes.
That child is a Frey and an heir to Riverrun. The last thing they're going to want is to give it to Jaime Lannister to practice his, you know,
right.
How high can this thing go? Yeah, that's a great point. But again, it all comes down to how long Edmure gives them. If he'll talk to Brynden Tully, he could be talked into doing the noble thing.
Possibly.
But if he just goes in, I think he'll do exactly what he's told. I do have an idea.
Okay, let's hear
an idea. The siege is secure because Riverrun is not massively populous and has considerable food stores. What about damming the river to flood the castle and destroy those food stores?
Yeah, it's one thing that Jaime had already mentioned that he would do. You know, if Edmure doesn't concede the castle, he says.
But that's to destroy the castle, right?
Yeah.
Right. But I'm talking about just raising the water level so that water seeps into the cellars and rots the food.
Oh, just enough. Not flood it entirely, just enough.
Yeah. Because what he's talking about will take a lot of work and effort. I'm just talking about what can we do quickly? And you can sort of like start to dam the river slowly from both sides, and it will raise the water levels. And this castle is right at the water level. So it would only take a couple of feet before the granaries start to flood and all that food rots.
I get it. I do.
I got on a huge dam building tangent here, by the way. I discovered that there's a British Dam Society, of which I'm now a paid member. But I mean, what else are the besiegers doing? Get a couple of hundred of them shoveling dirt into the river just downstream of the castle, you know, just after the confluence. Because that's the thing. A lot of water is coming in. Two rivers come together into one. So you dam the one river and a lot of water starts to build up pretty quickly behind it, you know.
Yeah, you're right.
And it's a bit of exercise for the board soldiery, you know.
And it maybe will keep the river lords and the rivermen away from the, you have the Freys dam one side, the Tumblestone, and
Brilliant.
The river lords dam the Red Fork.
Well, no, I want them both damming the Red Fork after the confluence, but they could do it from either side of the river. That's good.
Yes.
Maybe you could get the river lords working faster because you say, if you dam this river, you can go across and kill the Freys.
Right. But the chapter ends with Edmure wanting the singer removed. I think we probably skipped over this. So the Freys have a singer in camp, and he happens to be around when all this is going on with Edmure, and Jaime says, "You come with me," and he brings Edmure and the singer back to Jaime's tent. And then when Jaime leaves after he tells Edmure, "Here's your situation. You can give us the castle and all these good things will happen, or you can not give us the castle and all these bad things will happen." And then he says to the singer, "All right, I'm leaving. You
take it away, maestro."
You know the song, and he starts playing. He says the one about the rains, and that's the correct one. And Edmure says, "Please no, get him out of here. I want this singer removed." And the reason why is because he hates singers. And he seems to know this one. He says, "Not him, get him out of here." Maybe it's the fact that he's been in the Frey camp all this time. And this one singer's, the one singer that he really doesn't want to be around right now. But Kat told us that a singer slept with a girl that Edmure fancied. And then right. Tom O'Sevens of the Brotherhood Without Banners, he told us that Edmure was drunk one night, couldn't perform, and that Tom made a mocking song about a floppy fish. So he, for lots of reasons, he really dislikes singers. So I don't know if Jaime knew that, or he just wanted to hear.
I just assumed his reaction was to the song, because it's right. pretty depressing for those considering their future.
Right.
All right. Well, that was excellent. What about some spoilers? Remember, if you join the upper echelons of the Buy Me a Coffee Sustainer tiers, you can get the spoiler section, and it's always fascinating and educational. Well, that's some tasty spoilers right there. All right. How about some background for this one?
All right. Well, so there are two Lords Vance present at Jaime's War Council. Both are River Lords. Lord Norbert Vance is the head of House Vance of Atranta, while Carol Vance became Lord of Wayfarer's Rest when his father died in the battle below the Golden Tooth. Now, we only have semi-canon sources to cite regarding their sigils. However, they're quite similar to each other. The Vances of Atranta's sigil is quartered with a green dragon on white and a white tower on black. Meanwhile, the Vances of Wayfarer's Rest quarter their sigil with a black dragon on white and a pair of golden eyes and a gold ring on black. During the Dance with the Dragons, the Atranta Vances supported the greens and the branch from Wayfarer's Rest supported the blacks. However, it's unclear if that's why their sigils contain green and black dragons, respectively.
Yes, it could be cause and effect to getting mixed up. They looked at their sigil and went, "Green it is."
Right, I've got no choice. During the Andal invasion, Armistead Vance was the mightiest of the Andal warlords that invaded the Riverlands. After defeating King Christopher Mudd IV, Vance received the allegiance of Edmure Tully. No, not this Edmure Tully, obviously. The other Edmure Tully that I'm referring to was a knight and the head of House Tully back in that day. Vance granted Edmure's son Axel lands at the confluence of the Red Fork and the Tumblestone, and he raised a castle there. Any guesses on its name?
Is it Riverrun?
It is, yes.
Nice.
Good job parsing that out. The Vance houses are actually a nod to author Jack Vance, a favorite of George Martin's. Regardless of which side the Vance houses supported in the Dance of the Dragons, the dragons in their sigils refer to Jack Vance's novella, The Dragon Masters. Meanwhile, the eyes within the ring and the name Wayfarer's Rest refer to Vance's short story, Liane the Wayfarer. I think it's how it's pronounced, Liane the Wayfarer. Because as best I could tell from the Wikipedia page, a character has golden eyes in that story.
Okay. Interesting. All right, thanks for that. Comparison with the television show. So I think I mentioned this in the last Jaime chapter, and it should have come with this Jaime chapter, but Jaime took Edmure forcibly from the Freys, smacking one of them, who I assume was Ryman, upside the head for his stupidity. But Ryman was quite a lot younger in the TV show than he should have been, so it's just a random Frey he punched.
Okay.
all of this is moved way later in the show. This is season 6, episode 8, which is very much later. A lot of things have happened, and you'll see why that has an effect here. Edmure's son is already born, but he's never met him.
Okay.
Because he's been prisoner ever since the Red Wedding.
Yeah.
The discussion with Brynden Tully is kept practically word for word. It's amazing how similar that is. They just took it straight from the book.
All right.
But the talk between Jaime and Edmure is quite different. It does end with the catapult threat. That was kept.
Okay.
He actually tells Edmure that he would murder every Tully on Earth to get back to Cersei, which is pretty bold given that, it's not exactly known to the world that he sleeps with Cersei.
Right.
The whole War Council stuff was dropped. It's just Jaime's a one-man band trying to sort this all out.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, and it's also different that he and Cersei are very much at odds right now here in our story.
Yes, but I think he longs to get... Well, maybe he doesn't. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, she sent him away in the show as well.
Oh, right.
Pedantry, again, nothing. They're getting better at this.
Yeah, nothing from me
news and notes. So it says in the news and notes that we have a date for Winds of Winter, but I saw that one place and I couldn't find anything to back it up, so it's not true. Sorry.
Okay. I have it all caps. Is this legit? Where did this come from?
I was very excited, but I was like, oh well.
I would have been really excited too.
So the false date we have, and believe me, this is false, is September 2025. I'd be happy with that. I'd be okay with that.
At this point, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's a target to aim for,
Yeah, and we'd be pretty far into A Dance with Dragons at that point.
I know. You know what's going to happen? That thing is going to drop the day we record the last thing, the last chapter of The Dance with Dragons. It's clear that that's what's going to happen.
And we'll have to get reading really fast.
Exactly. No rest for the wicked. The hardest part will be spoilers. You'll be like...
Right. Well, so in other George Martin news that I feel is a little more legitimate, he's continuing to blog about his trip to Europe, and this week he was talking about his time in London. He met with his British editor at HarperCollins Voyager, he did some sightseeing, and he met with playwright Duncan Macmillan, who was working on Martin's play about the tourney at Harrenhal, which, at least as he called it in this blog post, The Iron Throne. He said it's coming along well and that the team recently did a run-through for London theater managers and it was very well received, and he hopes the play will debut in 2025. I wonder if it's September of 2025.
Yeah, exciting. It'll distract him, no doubt.
But as exciting as that is, the most intriguing part of his post was his lunch with Maisie Williams, who played Arya Stark in Game of Thrones. And it's just one single line, and I'll read it for you. We also got together with Maisie Williams for pizza and pasta and talked about, well, no, I better not get into that. I don't want to jinx it, but it could be so much fun. Now, this has come up just today in our Discord community, and they've been chewing on that, what that could mean. But at this point, it's all speculation, but I do hope we hear more soon because that could be fun.
Yeah. Whatever it is, it could be fun.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Keep an eye on that. All right, we are reopening the Ghost of Harrenhal threadless merchandise site for the holidays, so get your gifts. The holidays are coming.
That's
you need
right.
some GOH merch.
Yeah.
If you don't drink out of I've forgotten what his name is. The youngest Stark.
Oh, Rickon.
Rickon
who?
How ironic that I would forget Rickon's name. If you don't drink out of a Wes Rickon mug, you're missing out, I tell you.
I think it's Rickon who, but yes.
Rickon who, yes, that's right.
Yeah, so please go out. We'll keep it open through the holiday season because we thought some of you either might want stuff for yourself or might want stuff for yourself and your friends and family. So
absolutely.
But we also got a new Buy Me a Coffee sustainer. Jeremiah has joined us at the Squire tier, so that is great. Thank you so much,
Jeremiah.
We really appreciate that. That's
absolutely
wonderful.
All right, let's conclude this one. Jaime's not the ideal person if a parlay relies on his word being taken. at least to Tullys.
Yeah. Yeah, he also doesn't have the greatest counsel around him. He's got his own smallest council here.
No.
So,
but he is smart enough to see through them, and like you said, he didn't appoint them.
Right. Yeah. But I really think the Freys might never live down their violation of guest right.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's such a crime that they're going to be tainted by it forevermore. I really do.
And it's not like it was just committed on the Stark family. There were a lot of people from various houses that were killed. So
right, if it had just been Starks, you might get away with it, but because it's the Tullys and all of the River Lords as well, there's no getting away from that. And Edmure's going to get to go home, but I'm not sure how it's going to go. I hope Brynden Tully has a chance to talk him into a better plan of action.
Yeah, but at least Jaime has moved the stalemate along. When he got here, it was nothing happening, nothing moving. So he's at least done something to change things up a bit. We'll see if it's effective.
Yeah, and Jaime's offer was compelling before the threats to Edmure. I think that the Blackfish should have considered it, but again, the more we talked about it, the more I think he was right to hold out against it. But I think the threats will tip Edmure over. I think Edmure can't resist this.
Yeah, Jenna says to Jaime here in this chapter that Edmure is still standing between Emmon and I, being Lord and Lady of Riverrun, and that he is soft of heart and soft of head, but he's still in the way. And I think what she meant by that is that he's soft of heart. It's the same thing that Tywin knew about Edmure, that if he just spread some chaos around the Riverlands when they first launched this war, that Edmure would try to cover every blade of grass and protect every person in the Riverlands rather than trying to condense his force. And I think that's kind of the same concept here. He's caring, he's emotional, and I think he will be concerned about the people in the castle and his wife and unborn child.
I think that's fair. I think that's a fair criticism of Edmure. I think there is some unfair criticism of Edmure, but that one is fair. What'll be interesting is if all this plays out as Jaime intends, then Jaime's made the offer of Edmure coming to Casterly Rock to live as a sort of prisoner for the rest of his life with his wife and child, whom he certainly likes his wife and presumably will be fond of his child. Will Emmon and Jenna be okay with that?
Because because you're right. And to take it a step further, he said to Jaime, you might even be paroled in a year or two when this is all blown over.
Yeah.
But with the Tullys, we just discussed how hated the Freys are in the Riverlands, especially. No, I see your point.
But here's why maybe Jaime's playing three-dimensional chess here. Because Edmure giving up Riverrun could be his final straw for the people who are loyal to him. Oh. It's like, you see what I mean? It's like you gave up your people were defending Riverrun and you came back and you gave it up to the Freys.
Maybe.
Why should we try to put you back in?
That could be. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, next up we have the other twin, Cersei Lannister. So we'll see how she's going.
Yeah. All right. You never want to miss a Cersei chapter. That's for sure.
Never. For sure. All right, there are 4 ways that you can help us again. You could leave us a 5-star rating and possibly a review. You can buy us a cup of Arbor Gold at buymeacoffee.com/ghostharrenhal. Join us there at any of the various sustainer levels, as Jeremiah did, and there's a tier to match your budget and interest. The upper tiers get you the spoilers. You can buy merchandise at ghostsofharrenhal.threadless.com for the holidays, or you can just make a donation directly to our cause at our website, ghostsofharrenhal.buzzsprout.com.
And if you're looking for more ways to interact with us, well, you can send us a text. The link is at the top of every episode show notes. Just remember, we cannot respond, unfortunately. If you're interested in keeping up on the latest Ghosts of Harrenhal news and developments, well, check us out on our social media. You can follow us on Twitter at Ghost Harrenhal. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Discord, and YouTube.
Thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.